Welcome to the Pigskin Payroll Podcast, where we talk all about ball and the coin that comes with it. My name is Tony Storniolo, and alongside me are my co-hosts, as usual, Johnathan Thibodeau and Ty Marth. How you guys doing today?
Doing all right. We were just talking a little bit ago, kind of recovering from the flu. I think we've all been kind of dealing with that. So a little bit of a delay from our last pod, but we're getting there.
Yeah, I heard a few of the Eagles were sick too, supposedly.
Oh, is that right?
That's what they were saying. I think Jalen Carter was one of them or something like that. It didn't affect him.
He played. Yeah.
But he's recovering from the bottle flu is what he meant to say.
Yes. Well, now he is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Chiefs, they were finally taken down. All is right in the world. Let's freaking get down to business.
And we will get to them. We got a lot on our slate today. We are going to talk about just a little bit of catch up, NFL Conference Championship Week, NFL honors, and of course the great Super Bowl, which was held in New Orleans. And speaking of New Orleans, if you have been following us and you have been keeping up to date with our episodes, in the last episode at the end, I spoke about how Ty, Johnathan, and I were going to go and do a competition down in New Orleans at Tulane. This episode, given the timing of it all, we figured we would talk more about what had just occurred with the Super Bowl, the honors, and the conference championship since we didn't get a chance. We didn't get a chance because we were so locked in for the competition to actually do an episode, but we will be doing it next week. Unfortunately, we didn't get to do it in person. That would have been a lot of fun, but we'll have plenty of chances in the future. But we'll kick right off with this episode, what we want to start out with, kind of going in that chronological order. We're going to go to the conference championship weekend, which it feels so long ago from where we are now to where it was, but we'll start off with the first game, the NFC Championship of the Philadelphia Eagles, now Super Bowl champions, versus the Washington Commanders. Now this was probably a warning sign for the Chiefs, and we didn't even think about it at the time, but looking back in hindsight, 2020 at this point, it was a big blowout. I mean, it was 55-23 Eagles, and they had 7 rushing touchdowns. What do you guys think? I mean, I remember watching this. I was like, oh, wow, this is nice. But
it was the first play for the Eagles on offense, wasn't it? And Saquon broke like 6 tackles, goes to the end zone, 75 yards for a touchdown, right? So, yeah, at that point, it was like, oh, shit, like, here we go.
Exactly.
This is gonna be a whole day thing when you're doing that the first play of the game. But
oh, yeah. Ty, did you get a chance to watch this one?
It was quick. I kind of was in and out because I was studying. I know I sound like a freaking nerd. But I remember I checked in a couple different times, and in the third quarter, the score was honestly close. It was only 34-23.
Yeah.
So like the game like was in reach. And then I clicked on it again with like 5 minutes left, and it's 55-23.
Yeah.
So I'm like Will Shipley was running for like 50 yards. I'm like, why is he?
At the end of the game there, yeah.
They had him get one.
Hey, did you know? I didn't know this. He was a 5-star recruit out of high school. Did you guys know that?
That's crazy.
I don't quote me on this unless I look it up. He might have been the number 1 running back in his class.
I don't think Saquon was a 5-star. I think Saquon was a 4.
He was not. That's not
crazy.
Saquon was committed to Rutgers.
Yeah.
Before he went to Penn State.
That's crazy.
I saw him manhandle Iowa in 2017, but we don't need to talk about that.
Yeah, well, you're wearing the Iowa shirt, so now you're bringing up memories of the jump. I mean, he had a jump over of one of the Iowa guys in that game.
I was so emasculated by that play.
I think we all were. I mean, that was at Kinnick. But speaking of Saquon, at least in this game, he had a monster game. He had 15 carries, 118 yards, and 3 rushing touchdowns alone. Obviously, everyone had a play in this entire game. And as Ty said, the game was kind of close at one point, but I think I saw in the fourth quarter, Eagles scored 21 and the Commanders scored 0. Mm-hmm. So it was not really like, at least at one point it was close, but towards the end it was just, that's it. The game's done. So, Johnathan, were you going to say something there?
No, I was just going to say, I think, we're talking about Will Shipley getting some time there at the end. I think Pittsburgh's finest Kenny Pickett, he got some action too, didn't he?
Absolutely.
down at the end, didn't he? Yeah, so he got a driver too. So, but no, I mean, I think the thing that I'm kind of thinking of is, when you think about all these teams at the beginning of the season, like I don't think the Commanders were really on anyone's radar.
No.
And then, they've got Daniels on that rookie deal. They've really got maybe a 3-4 year window right now, and they've got a lot of money. So I think it's going to be interesting to kind of see where they go from here. You know what I mean? They've got a lot of resources to get better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that you're completely right on that. I think that in no way whatsoever with this game, even though, it was lopsided the way it was, but down the line, I think the Commanders can look and be like, wow, this team was pretty dominant to do what they did against the Chiefs. No one should be hanging their head. And the fact that they were close at one point in that game and scored more than the Chiefs did, at least in the first quarter and the first half.
Yeah.
They should definitely be proud of themselves for what they were able to accomplish this season and even the game. And like you said, they have a ton of room to work with in the offseason. They have the third most cap space with $75.2 million. Got a ton of draft picks, and they have some free agents, but it looks like it's a little bit of older guys like Zach Ertz, Bobby Wagner. I think they have a few guys on their defense, but with that much cap space, there's been talks of like Myles Garrett maybe getting signed or getting traded and everything over there. I think
That'd be huge.
A perfect combination. Dan Quinn was able with such a defense we've talked about, middle of the pack, having a guy like that may boost them.
Right. And I think they signed Dorrance Armstrong from the Cowboys, right? So that was a Dan Quinn guy they brought over. But, I think Myles Garrett would actually be a good fit there. They just traded Montez Sweat to the Bears, and now maybe bringing Myles Garrett, that's a huge upgrade. So, that might be
to my Bears fans on the panel, if there are any left. I know one's converted, I'm pretty sure.
I'll always be here, brother.
Other
I ain't going nowhere.
You guys know I love to ask random questions during the pod. Do you guys think the Commanders have the same season if they don't have that Hail Mary against the Bears?
I don't know, man. I think that gave them a lot of momentum. Like, that's a huge play. That should have never happened. But I still think they're a good team. They obviously would have lost one extra game, but I think they still go on a nice run.
I think that would have affected the Bears more than it would have affected the
Bears. I think you're right. I think they just defeated us.
Because at the end of the day, that was awesome for the Commanders. But, like, if they had lost, I think it was a Hail Mary, so they didn't expect it. But if the Bears won that game, maybe they didn't deflate the rest of their season.
Right. That was the start of our losing streak. We didn't win another game.
And from that point on, I think we lost 9.
Right.
Oh, God, I just said we. Oh, Lord. What am I doing wearing this?
Listen, Tony, the Bears are 1-0 in 2025.
That's true. That is true.
I've not lost in 2025.
And we beat the Packers.
That's right.
That's what it's about.
Beat the Packers. Virginia went on a happy note.
She did.
The Packers, and she said, "That's it, Papa Bear. I'm coming home." She's like, "I'm done."
Yep.
That was great.
Rest in peace.
R.I.P. Virginia. As much as I give the Bears shit for jumping ship. Virginia, great woman. Great. I've never met her, but great woman.
Friend of the pod.
Yeah, friend of the pod. It's actually funny. There's a McCaskey that lives in the town that we go to law school.
So George McCaskey. Yeah. He umps games at the Sycamore Park District. I've been
no way.
People. Yeah, right there, right where I used to live, right there with you guys.
Yeah, for anyone that knows the area, because they probably don't, in Northern Illinois law, Sycamore's like the town over from DeKalb. That's where one of the McCaskies lives. So, we're closer. So, 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon, isn't that what it is? Like, you're that close. We're right next to one.
Yeah.
So I can say Virginia was a friend of the pod. That's okay.
Okay.
Anyway, it looks like it's on the up and up for the Commanders. And that was the NFC Championship game. And that was a good one, even though it was definitely lopsided. But the game of that weekend that no one will forget is the AFC Championship, the 4th meeting in the playoffs of Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs and Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Now, there are many things we have said on this pod. I've specifically said on this pod about the refs being completely leaning and favoring one team. And my God, they deserve it all. Like Super Bowl MVP, Ref of the Year. They need a new award for that because that 4th and 1 that should have been converted because it was the biggest bullshit call in all of NFL playoffs, football in general, I've ever seen. I'm not going to say it was like, oh, he was like 2 yards over, but come on.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was bad.
I don't know if it's the worst playoff call I've seen. What about that pass interference?
I know you're about to say.
There's that Bradley Roby, Saints and Rams. That might be the worst one. He even said that was PI.
That might
but
even
no,
be
but it was a bad call. I mean, I know what you're trying to say. It was bad. I feel like everyone was kind of upset in the Super Bowl too with the play calling those first couple, but after that, I thought it was a pretty clean game after that. But no, I hear what you're saying, man.
Call me crazy. Other than that play, I actually thought the game was called pretty well compared to what we had seen all season prior to that. And I don't know how much you guys follow John Gruden on Barstool Sports. I think he's absolutely electric since he joined.
Oh, yeah.
I think he said it best. If you guys can't get 1 yard in the AFC Championship, like clearly get 1 yard, or you have to let the refs dictate it against the Kansas City Chiefs, you guys don't deserve to go to the Super Bowl. And I was like, God damn, he's spitting some bars over here.
I have a fair opinion. Josh Allen's 6'5", 250 pounds. How can you not get it? You know what I mean? Like
MVP candidate.
MVP winner
at the time. MVP winner. We'll get to that.
Jimmy Johnson said it best when he was the coach for Miami and when they used to play Notre Dame. He said he has a specific quote when he used to play them, and this is very applicable. He said, if we leave it in the hands of the refs, it's not going to go our way. And I feel like that could be applied here because I agree with you guys in the sense of at the end of the day, you should probably be able to make that happen. But at the end of the day, it was their call, and they were able to go in whatever direction that they wanted, and they did. And I think everyone knows that was probably a first down, if not yes. I mean, I'm pretty sure on the call, Gene Statator, I love that guy, like one of those analysts, was one of the guys that was announcing with, I think it was with Romo and stuff, or no, it might not have been. And they even said, like, what do you think? And he's like, well, I thought that was a first down, but I'm not on the field. So it's not like where it's out of the question, but it was a close game. It was a good one. Josh played great. Mahomes played good, and they always have good bouts, but you can't leave it that close if you want to get past them.
Well, like my biggest thing is like, what do you guys – I believe you said 0-4 now, Josh Allen against the Chiefs in the playoffs. Yeah. Like, dude, what does – like, granted, like he's not 35 years old, so he still has a lot in the tank, but like, what do you guys think this like does for his legacy? And honestly, I forget the Bills coach's name right now, but like, what does it do for his – well?
McDermott?
Yes. Yeah, there we go.
I don't think, their legacy is tarnished. I do think that obviously you start to hear people start saying, if you know about the Bills from the 90s and you're listening to this, they lost 4 Super Bowls a row, which is even more devastating. But
we made Tibbs watch a documentary in New Orleans.
Oh, yeah.
Damn good.
Highly recommend 30 for 30. Yeah. But, this is what people were comparing it to. I wouldn't say it's like exactly the same closeness because like he's still getting the chance, and it's not like these games are blowouts. They're coming down to the wire, and people are like, oh, well, Burrow beat him and everything. Well, Burrow wasn't even in the freaking playoffs this year. So, and yes, that's not maybe his fault because of the defense, but like Josh Allen did a lot this year, and Sean McDermott, they carried themselves into the playoffs where they were thinking that they were going to be the bottom of the AFC East this year. Like people were saying like they might be the worst team in the division. So I don't think it tarnishes them, but it's starting to become a pattern. Yeah. And I do think that they need to start making changes. Unfortunately, their off season is going to be a little tight.
Yeah.
They have the third lowest cap space.
And that's the thing I'm thinking of, is they've not been able to do it 4 times now. Are they ever going to be able to do it? And I think their roster at this point, it's not a bad roster, but last year they were negative, I believe, to start the offseason like they are this year. And they, had to move a bunch of contracts around. They cut Jordan Poyer, right? He's an all-pro, I believe. I know he's always the Pro Bowl safety. Cut Micah Hyde, another really good safety. So they got rid of their starting safeties. They've got rid of other starting players last year. They're going to probably do something similar this year. They're going to have to cut some vets. They're going to move some money around. But, man, it just feels like it's just not going to get any better. You know what I mean? Like, it's so hard to find talent in the draft and undrafted free agents and guys like that and cheap free agents in the offseason that they can bring in and just make the team better. Like, I feel like it's hard to get better.
We've got their draft picks up in front of us. Like, is there anybody they can get at 30 to, make that big of an impact and make them get over the hump?
I think they got to go with a receiver. And I did see a couple of mocks, but I don't know if, depending on how the combine goes and what they draft. Jaden Higgins from Iowa State, if he does fall to them, might be a good pick. But I think that they got to go with a receiver. Or if they don't go with a receiver, maybe an edge rusher just to beef up that defense. I mean, what is his name? I'm completely forgetting. The older guy that won for Denver. He's on
Von Miller.
What was it?
Von Miller.
Yeah, Von Miller's getting older. Epinence is on the line, sure, but you kind of just showed in the Super Bowl that having a good pass rush and everything is gonna stop Mahomes. And obviously they don't have Vic Fangio, and we'll get to that. But when you have a good pass rush against Mahomes, it affects him. It's shown in 2 Super Bowls now. So maybe go in that direction. But I feel like one thing that was missing for the Bills was they don't have a dynamic receiver to work with. Yes, Stephon Diggs was a pain in the ass for Josh Allen, and we could all tell he's been a happier man since. But when they were on and they were playing, I mean, they were on a different level. And if he can get somebody what is it? The guy that he was really playing well with down the stretch was Mac Hollins.
Yeah, he played damn good too. I think he had 2 touchdowns in that game.
He's a free agent, but they had Amari Cooper and thinking he would be that guy. He didn't do much.
And they got Amari Cooper for the minimum. When they traded for him, they only paid maybe $500,000 for the remainder of the season. So that wasn't a very big salary cap hit, and they could afford him. But who can they realistically afford with negative $14 million cap space? And they're going to move it around. They're going to have positive space here soon, but it's just not a lot to work with.
Josh
Allen's contract. Josh Allen's contract. I think we can talk about it later, but he's the 14th highest paid quarterback in the NFL. So it's, you know what I'm saying? He probably deserves to be higher paid than what he is. And I don't think they can redo his deal and give him more money. They're not going to want to do that. I'm not saying they should, but I don't know. They're just not in the greatest spot.
No, they're not. And there's a chance that things don't go well for them next year because, there was already low expectations this year for them. But there's a chance that we see that next year because now with this cap space, and if they don't hit on their picks, and, they got lucky, like you said, Amari was cheap and Mac played well. And, the defense, they did all right, but, they weren't dynamic, and Josh Allen just balled his ass off. I mean, some of the games he had this season, were just insane in Buffalo. So, if he can't keep that momentum next year, I mean, it's all on him. It's gonna be hard.
I do feel they do have two really good tight ends.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Dawson Knox and
they have top 5 running back.
Dalton Kincaid. They've got a top 5 running back. Ray Davis, their backup running back, solid. They've got Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir. Yeah. They've got some decent pieces, but I do agree. They got to get a dynamic guy at receiver. You know what I mean? A game changer. So
what are the odds that I'm looking at 3 names right now, and they're older? Marquise Brown.
But what did he do this year though?
Well, he's been hurt.
I know, but okay.
So, I was just saying Marquise Brown, DeAndre Hopkins. He's old.
Yeah, looked too good in the Super Bowl.
Mike Williams.
Yeah, he didn't look good in the Super Bowl at all.
Or another name, Stephon Diggs. No, I'm kidding.
Get out of here.
He's a free agent.
He's going to be asked for max APY at 32 years old.
Yeah. God bless to whatever team takes him on again.
Yeah.
And maybe the Texans. I don't know.
He's coming off an ACL or something too. So
yes, he is.
It's gonna be tough.
They're not getting T. Higgins. I'll tell you that much.
Oh hell no.
that
would be an interesting thing to talk about too.
I'm interested to talk about that. Yeah, but Keon, I feel like could be a guy, but if he was going to be that guy, maybe he would have shown more this year. It was kind of just, it was being spread around, which is good, but I don't know. All right. Well, speaking of Josh Allen and, his accomplishments this year, he was one of the candidates for the MVP, as we already stated before, and luckily he was the guy that won the MVP. Now we're going to get into all the awards from the NFL honors. We'll hold off on the MVP now that you already know. Spoiler, I guess, if you don't already know. But we'll go from the bottom up. The first award in New Orleans, by the way, which I think that always happens that they do in the city. I didn't know that actually until this year, which I probably should have. The Assistant Coach of the Year. Johnathan, who was it? Who was the Assistant Coach of the Year?
Oh my gosh, it's the best. It's now the best head coach in the NFL.
The best head. What a statement! Right
I'm
off.
just saying, it's Ben Johnson.
Best coach in the NFL. I didn't see that in our outline for this pod.
It's because I just said it right now.
That was off the top.
Right off the dome. Hey, I mean, shit. He signed a 5-year deal, $65 million, $13 million APY.
You
put pretty damn good money. Yeah, I put the APY on a coach's deal. Yeah, man. I sure did. I sure did, man.
Christ.
I can't.
Where's that
man.
put in the league? Where's that contract rank amongst players?
I had it at one point. I think amongst coaches, it's like top 5 or maybe
I think
top
I did
6.
actually see the list. I think it was either top 5 or top 7.
You know how much what's the Packers head coach's name? I can see his face. Yeah, guess how much he makes on a per year basis?
How much he make?
5.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Ben Johnson's getting 13. That's a lot of money, man.
Oh my God.
And a lot of these, I think that's more than Kevin O'Connell too.
Hate to bring up Virginia again, but you probably saw that contract and said, "I'm out."
I mean,
I'll stipulate to that.
I'll be honest. Like, I'm surprised the Bears signed him because they're paying Matt Eberflus to not coach right now.
Oh, that's still amazing.
Dude, what a life!
And the Bears are cheap. Like historically, they don't like to go out and pay for the best coaches and pay the most money for guys. Yeah. So they just don't do that. That's just kind of their prerogative, and they went out and did that. So pretty impressed that they've done it. I think that they finally are like, hey, we're going to go freaking win some games. I hope it works out.
Tibbs, I'm convinced that this contract, that they think it affects the salary cap.
Yeah.
Maybe.
We'll see.
It affects George's wallet now. I know that's for sure. George McCaskey. I probably don't like that, but I'm glad he did it, man. Kudos to him.
So, yeah, Assistant Coach of the Year. And while the reason he got it was because with the Lions, I mean, plug-and-play master, he was just having random plays happening all over the place. The Lions offense was incredible this year. And obviously, unfortunately, it didn't work out the way they wanted to in the playoffs. The Commanders took hold, but that might have been more the defensive problem. But yeah, definitely earned it. And as far as with the Bears, the offseason look, I see a great note right here. We should relay this to Ben Johnson. Johnathan,
he already knows.
Trenches.
In all caps.
Working in the trenches.
But before I get to trenches, you know who the Assistant Coach of the Year next year is going to be?
Who's that going to be?
Antoine Randall.
Oh
my God.
He's
real ones know.
He was the receivers coach for the Lions, and he came over to the Bears. So he's gonna be coaching with us next year. But I'm pumped about that. But no, man, trenches. I've been saying it, I think, since like the first or second podcast. Trey Smith, give him a bag, make him one of the top paid guards in the league. That if they do that, I'm ecstatic. I want him so bad. But no matter what they do, if they go after guys like Ryan Kelly, Drew Dahlman, or even Mekhi Becton from the Eagles, somebody they got to get some interior. They got to get some guys on the interior. I think they can sign some guys in free agency and in the draft, but they got to go D-line too, man. We need.
I was gonna say, do you think
D-line too?
They should only focus on O-line or probably some D-line.
No, man. D-line, O-line, D-line. I'm signing guys in free agency and I'm drafting guys. That's almost all my resources are going to that. Like if you look at the rest of the roster, it's pretty good. Like really, I mean, the secondary's really damn good. Linebackers are good. Receivers are good. Backs are pretty good. Maybe you can add a back in the draft. It's pretty good running back class, but I mean, maybe another backup tight end. I think Gerald Everett kind of getting off track here, but Gerald Everett's backup tight end. He's got like a $5.5 million cap hit next year, and he played like 30% of the snaps. Like that's just a waste of money. You know what I mean? Draft a tight end, save some money there. I feel like there's a couple small things you can do, but man, trenches. I mean, the Eagles gave you the blueprint, right?
Yeah.
Look at them. So
another this was another team, the Bears, that were talked about as a destination for Myles Garrett, and they have the sixth amount of cap space this season with $62.96 million. So they have the opportunity to, spend a little in the offseason as well, if not the draft. I don't have their picks pulled up.
Yeah, they're picking at 10, and then they've got I think 39 and 42 or 41 in the second.
They have some couple of early rounds.
Right, so they
could make some splashes.
Got some picks.
There is no way Myles Garrett is going to Chicago.
I don't know.
Why?
On the parade, he came from Cleveland. He wants to go to a day one contender.
Did you not just hear what we talked about? We have the coach of the year, the assistant coach of the year last year is going to be the coach of the year next year.
Ty, day one contender.
Jonathan, you are gaslighting yourself a year from now.
I do it every year, Ty.
All right. I can't wait to roll these clips in 12 months.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I can't wait for 4-2 and then
man.
I don't care what happens. I just want them to start off 0-1. That's all I want.
Oh yeah, because JJ.
Might be an undefeated season or something. I don't know.
Well, anyway, let's get to the second award. Oh, no, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, back to Myles Garrett real quick.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it is a team I've seen rumored out there, and I think it makes sense from a cap perspective, and I think we need the help on the D-line, but I don't know if I'm willing to give up the picks that it would take to get him. And then you're going to have to do a new contract and pay him, and I just think it'd be too much.
Fair enough.
Your cold medicine is getting to your brain.
I think I'd rather – hear me out. I think I'd rather sign Khalil Mack in free agency and not give up any picks. He's been extremely productive over the last 3 seasons. You know, he's older, but he's been very productive still. I think I'd rather have him for cheaper and wouldn't give up any picks. But
bring Mack home.
Just a thought.
Bring Mack back. Let's get it.
Bring Mack back. Hey, start
Mack back. Let's go.
Bring Mack back.
Well, that was the first award. The second award of that night was Offensive Rookie of the Year, and I think everybody knew that this was going to Jaden Daniels. The guy balled out in his first season, and I'm pretty sure we've already mentioned his statistics multiple times, given that he's been in the playoffs this year. But my biggest question is, because I did see this right off the bat after the Super Bowl, does this man win MVP next year? Is he in the running for that? What do you guys think?
Absolutely.
Absolutely?
Yeah, I mean, your rookie, like, I'm pulling up his stats right now. Your rookie year, 25 touchdown passes, six rushing touchdowns, 891 rushing yards. Like, that's pretty impressive, considering, like we talked about, the Commanders weren't even on the radar, really. So I don't think he's not going to be the favorite.
No.
But he'll definitely be. I think he'll have top 5 odds.
Oh, yeah. Johnathan?
Yeah, I wanted to pull something up real quick. Hold on.
Just give me a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Talk for an hour. Fine.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'll tell you when I'm ready. I wanted to look at
Well, as far as another thing I did see, it's kind of funny. Rookie year pulls up the Offensive Rookie of the Year, and we're already talking MVP for next year. I did see something about how, isn't it funny that Brian Kelly from LSU, talk a big game about Notre Dame. I don't have the resources, can't win a championship. But then with Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, and I think there was another guy that's been killer this year that I completely forgot about. Went 9-3 in LSU when he had all three of these guys. Forgot what the third.
Oh, you're talking about Brian Thomas.
Yes, Brian Thomas. That's who it was. I mean, what the heck, Brian Kelly, acting like I don't have the resources, but then you got guys that are just balling out in the NFL, and you can't make things happen. That's just a little bit something I wanted to point out there.
That's
right, I'm back to what I wanted to talk about. We're talking about Jaden Daniels.
Yeah,
I think yeah. I mean, he could be considered a guy next year, but if we're considering him already, and we're not even to next season, let's talk about Lamar Jackson.
Oh my gosh, we're not getting
Lamar Jackson had more passing yards this season in 17 games. He had more rushing yards. He had less interceptions. He had double the passing touchdowns. Roughly the same amount of rushing touchdowns, same record. I mean, the list goes on. Higher passer rating by almost 20. I mean, over Jaden Daniels. He had a lot of it was
5 odds. Top.
Okay. I'm just throwing that out there.
And Lamar Jackson is one of the guys that is definitely ahead of him.
I think Lamar Jackson, man, I feel like he kind of got snubbed. And I know there's the argument that, well, he has a better roster. So, yeah, of course you do those things. And, Josh Allen adds more value because his roster is not as good. But, I don't really buy that. Josh Allen has a pretty damn good roster, too. I know it's not like we just talked about, he has 2 stud tight ends.
Yeah, I mean.
He he's got a top 5 running back.
Who are his receivers though?
He's got Keon's not bad. He's got Amari Cooper. I know he's not maybe as good, but I think he's still got a very good team. We don't need to act like he's playing with a bunch of 7th graders. You know what I mean? These guys are very talented players still. Amari Cooper's a big name. I know he's not who he used to be, but I just think Lamar Jackson, man, I think he kind of got snubbed a little bit. But
absolutely, hot take. I think the NFL should do what college does, and they should announce awards before the playoffs start.
Yeah.
Because I think you do that. We don't obviously watch Lamar lose in the divisional round. And he probably wins the MVP.
Yeah.
Yeah, you think if the Ravens beat the Bills, you think he wins it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
You think?
Yeah.
How close was it? How close was it? Yeah, I'll pull them up real quick.
How close was that game?
How close was the voting? Do you guys know?
Lamar, I don't think was close at all because I think it was Saquon and Josh were pretty much the two.
Because they're both in the playoffs.
And that's the thing too.
I don't know why they do that.
And that's the other thing that kind of messed it up. I feel like is Lamar would have gotten Offensive Player of the Year if he didn't get MVP, but Barkley had such a great season.
I'm of the small
that's tough.
portion that thinks Saquon should have gotten the MVP only because of the fact that the last guy to hit over 2,000 yards got MVP. And
who was that, by the way? Who was that?
I completely forgot.
Yeah. All day, Adrian Peterson. How are you?
AP. All right, I've got these stats pulled up here.
All right.
Let me pull it up.
You got all the results.
Oh, he's going all fancy on us. Look at that. Look at that green highlight right there. So that's all I needed to see.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Allen had more rushing touchdowns. Those are all probably on the goal line. Most of them probably are. So
yes.
Yeah, man. Better record.
It's a playoff award
by a game. That's about it. So yeah. There it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's like the argument that Orlovsky, is that his name?
Dan Orlovsky.
Yeah. He always makes he's always the one talking about how Josh Allen deserved it more because he adds more value to the team, and it's not about stats; it's about the value they add. And I kind of buy that to a degree, but I don't know, man. Lamar, I mean, 41 passing touchdowns and 4 interceptions. That's crazy. That's just insane. 66% completion and 4,000 passing yards. This is a guy coming out of the draft that people said couldn't throw the football. He can't play quarterback. Look what he's doing in the NFL.
Yeah.
It's just
dude, scouts got fired from teams.
Yeah, there was people trying to get him to run at the combine and do receiver drills. He's like, no, I ain't doing that.
God bless his agent. Told him not to run the 40.
He didn't even do it, right?
He doesn't have an agent, remember?
His mom. You're right. His mom's his agent. He may have had at the time, but his mom helped him with his contract.
His mom just
freaking awesome.
A registered agent.
Dude, so mothers are going to run us out of a job.
Mothers are going to run us out of business. Literally. I talked to an agent recently, and he's like, I was like, how do you feel about this? Like, he's like, I hate it. They're taking my jobs.
What does he say in The Water Boy? Well, Mama said.
Because he didn't want an agent because when they had that whole contract dispute with the Ravens, and everyone was like making fun of him, saying like there's intricate things in the contract and everything, which there obviously is when we do this. But they got a deal done, and the Ravens were good with him. But it was his mom that helped, and then there were concerns that she wasn't a registered agent. So just recently, she became a registered agent. I actually
didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's funny because some states make it that if you're related to the player, you don't have to register.
Yeah. Well, for the NFLPA.
For the NFLPA.
Yeah.
Sorry. You don't have to register through the state.
Yeah, for the state, they probably would have different regulations. But no, yeah. So, all right. Well, it seems as though we skipped a couple of awards and we went straight to the MVP discussion, which is fine. But
way to go, John.
Josh Allen.
All right, bud.
Get the heck out of here.
Logging off.
Yeah. All right. We'll come back. Whatever. We'll jump
for those listening. That's an inside joke. While we're at
it's an inside joke while we were in New Orleans.
Yeah. Tony buddied the other team from a teammate from the University of Houston.
It was an accident.
In the middle of a negotiation.
It was an accident.
Mr. This guy's Italian. Give him a break.
I was enjoying, we were, whatever. I'm not going to get into it. We'll talk about that in the next episode. Anyway, the next award on the list was Defensive Player of the Year. Patrick Surtain III won this. And honestly, I feel like he deserved it. He had a great season. The Broncos, with Sean Payton, the defense was starting to play up to their caliber. And, I thought he balled out. They extended him earlier this year after he finished his fourth year on his rookie contract, and he really made up for it. So he's definitely at the top of the echelon of cornerbacks in the league. And I don't know, what do you guys have to say about this one?
All I have to say is I pulled up his stats, 132 yards on interception returns on 4 interceptions. That is crazy. So I asked Tibbs, I think a couple weeks ago, I'm like Patrick Surtain is the best defensive back in the league, right? And you said by far, and clearly
it's not close. I think he is, and I'm pulling up some stuff here. I mean, he's averaging this year a 61 passer rating when targeted against. That's pretty damn good. He had 8.6 yards allowed per reception, pretty damn good, under 10. 87.4 coverage grade, was second or third amongst all corners by PFF. So, I mean, that's pretty solid too. But yeah, I mean, like Tony was kind of saying, they extended him early. And I think it's funny, I think Jair Alexander with the Packers was the highest paid corner at like 20.5 or 21.5 million APY. And then when they did Surtain, they bumped him to 24 million. That's what they paid him APY, which is a huge bump to kind of reset the market. 4 days later, Jalen Ramsey did a new deal early to bump it up to 24.1 to reset it. I'm like, what are we doing? So ridiculous. It's just crazy, man, that shit happens. But yeah, he's by far, I think, the best corner in the NFL, hands down. No argument. I think Sauce is right there too. And Sauce is going to get himself a big extension. I think they'd be wise to do it now after 3 years.
We'll have plenty of discussions about that next week.
Right, but I think it'd be smart for them to do it now. But yeah, man.
Yeah, so
he's damn good. He deserved it.
He deserves the money. He deserved this award. It really didn't seem like anything controversial. I know there were a few other guys up for this, but really at the end of the day, it kind of seemed pretty open and shut with the way he played this year. All right, well, the next guy on the list is a guy that I personally thought he should have been, he did get a lot of votes, and it was actually pretty close between him and Josh Allen for MVP. But Saquon Barkley won Offensive Player of the Year. rightfully deserved with the way that he played and balled out this year. And honestly, could have broke even more records if he wasn't such a selfless guy. We've even talked about it. Could have just went for like 300 yards against the Giants in that last game and eviscerated the rushing record. But do you guys think that actually affected him from getting MVP for not breaking the record? Or just like they already kind of had in their mind it's a QB award, because that's pretty much what it is now, in my opinion.
No,
because
it's a quarterback award.
Right.
Whatever. But
it is. Oh well. I think it's good that they gave him something, offensive player of the year. I mean, historic season, and just good for him. We've been talking about him all season, or all the whole time.
We're Joe Shane, by the way. I always got that.
Right. We're always talking about Saquon and Joe Shane, man. I continue to see those clips on like Twitter and stuff.
Intertwined for life.
I know.
Yeah, but
no, he got a $250,000 incentive. I saw in his contract when the Super Bowl. So good for him, man.
Yeah, he's once again reminder Joe Shane, pretty on a not so expensive contract, 3 year, $37.75 million, 12.5 APY. I think you even put here, Johnathan, he actually had 2 higher offers on free agency last offseason. Almost signed with Chicago Bears before the Eagles got the next. God.
That's what I've seen.
Good choice, man.
People say that he talked about that.
Good choice.
Yeah, good thing he went to the Eagles. Good for him. Wish he wouldn't have.
Good choice, Saquon.
Yeah, I'd much rather have signed him than DeAndre Swift, but here we are.
Yeah, so. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it worked out. And it also worked out for the memes with seeing John Mara say, I don't know how I'll sleep at night if he goes to the Eagles. Well, now you can sleep at night knowing he's holding a Super Bowl trophy in Philadelphia. Right. So have fun, John. Right. You should maybe not hold on to Joe Shane for another year.
And think about all the revenue he's generating for, jersey sales. Oh, my God.
All the Eagles,
everything, man.
Don't understand. Like
Philadelphia fans, man. That should be a whole episode.
They're wild.
Philadelphia fan. Have you seen the videos?
No.
They're like climbing up. Like they sent a thing out, like don't climb telephone poles and like light poles and stuff. So I'm like, huh? There's like videos of them doing that, and like they do. And I saw a video of someone that died because he fell.
Oh yeah. Crazy thing is, they were going to act that way whether they won or lost.
They were 100%.
It's just something else, man. I don't know.
Crazy. Well, Saquon, it's hilarious because supposedly I didn't know this. Saquon's actually from Philadelphia. Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
He's from Pennsylvania, so like I had no idea of that, but went to high school there. Penn State obviously was going nuts after he won too. And now he's in Philly, but he's such a guy that you wouldn't think that mixes like Philly type of guy. Honestly, he feels like more like he'd be more like a Pittsburgh type of guy, just the way he is. But it's hilarious to see a type of guy like that, and then you just see the fans, and you're like, "What the heck?"
Well, dude, and talk about like super happy for him.
Yeah,
like where he was at. He had been hurt so much. The Giants organization has been, essentially they've been a dumpster fire since.
Absolutely.
I think they won that Super Bowl in 2011. Yep. And they haven't really, even when like Odell Beckham was in his prime there, they still like weren't that good record wise. So he for him to essentially, I mean, he could have been MVP this year, but to kind of waste his prime years there, and then he leaves and immediately wins the Super Bowl. Like very awesome, well deserving, super happy for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
He deserved it, and I'm happy for him. Like I said, I wish maybe he got the MVP. Maybe if he broke the record, maybe not. But
good God, they robbed him contract-wise based off of how he played.
Oh yeah, when I saw that, realizing the way he played. But Joe Shane, you could have done that too. You could have robbed him and gave him the same amount of money.
Well, now he's going to be 28 next year.
Oh God,
28, dude. He's
I'm pretty sure. I mean, that's pretty old.
Get the walker.
How old are you guys?
Why are you making me feel old after I just said that?
John.
I'm 28, but in football years, that's like 37.
I'll be 27 in 8 days.
Dang, I'm the youngest one. I'm 26.
Yeah, I'll be 28 this August.
When's your birthday?
Me? August 8th.
Mine's the 30th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're close.
Okay. Cool.
But in football years, I'm like 40 years old. So
yeah.
I mean,
That beard tells me all I need to
actually,
know.
the way I'm actually structured, I'm more like 50. But so I mean, Saquon though doesn't look 28. I mean, heck, he looks like he just came out of Penn State. Like maybe
He's an
Joe should
animal.
not look at a number and maybe think, "Oh, wow." Like I saw him like in the locker room when they were celebrating. I was like, Jesus, this man is jacked. And even like the old, like at the beginning of the season when they were in camp and him and Jalen Hurts were having a discussion. He had like the tight, like short pants on. His thighs are just like the size of my head. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like,
he's 28, but his quads are like 20.
He's 28.
Yeah.
We can't have that on the team, John Mara. Like, no, like that guy's as old as you. Like, I don't think we can afford. Like, this is ridiculous. Daniel Jones, though, this is a perennial all-star. Oh my god. Oh wait,
we didn't pay this guy $50 million a year to hand the ball off.
No.
We paid him $50 million to sling that thing.
We paid him to get released and go to the Vikings. That's what we paid him for. Anyway, on to the next.
That brings us into a great segue to our next topic.
A award that might actually have Daniel Jones winning it next year when he, takes the Vikings to the Super Bowl is the Comeback Player of the Year award, which wasn't a Viking that won it this year because I personally think Sam Darnold got robbed. Joe Burrow won Comeback Player of the Year award. Okay, stop it. All right. Stop. It's for the story.
I just wanted to throw it up there.
For the story. Yeah, Joe Burrow had a great season. It actually was even talked about for the MVP. But
he could have been MVP.
He could have been MVP.
Yeah. If he had a breathing soul on his defense, he probably would have been MVP.
Yeah, but see, you guys are right. They should do it after the regular season because of the fact that the playoff stuff affects people because it's writers that are literally doing this. And they're like, why are we going to put Joe Burrow for the MVP? He's not even in the playoffs. Let's put the guy that makes it as far as he does.
Was it his ACL last year? Is that what happened?
Who was it?
Was it his ACL that he?
I'm not sure. I know he missed 7 games.
Yes.
He played in 10. I don't know what it was though.
Yeah. Well, I get like it's so funny because like you just wouldn't think of like him as Comeback Player of the Year because he didn't play like he got hurt.
No. There's no theme to the award anymore because Joe Flacco won this last year. And
Comeback Player of the Year.
You would have thought that
I thought it was DeMar Hamlin.
What happened?
I thought it was DeMar Hamlin.
No, it was Joe Flacco. There was controversy over that.
That's right.
Because they were like, "Oh, DeMar he went to heaven and he came back and they had to revive him back to life. Like he deserves the award." And then Joe Flacco gets it, and like the internet exploded. And
it's like DeMar Hamlin barely plays.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, come on now.
Yeah, he played. I saw something about that. He played this year, but I think last year when he was up for it, he played like 3 snaps and had like 2 penalties for negative 10 yards or something.
Yes.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, that's great.
That's great.
Give it to this guy. I mean, I think it is a pretty big deal though. Dying on the field and coming back and playing.
No, I mean,
still a big deal.
Nothing against that. Absolutely.
Right.
I think, but like, what is this award anymore? Because Joe Flacco won it last year, and it was because it was like, oh, he was out of the game for a while, and like now he came back and he made the Browns look really good again. And now this year it was, oh, it's pretty much a not offensive player of the year, but it's like a notch lower than that.
This is like another like a playoff thing. Granted, like I know the Bengals didn't make the playoffs, but if Sam Darnold wins one playoff game,
I think
probably wins this award.
If they beat the Rams, I think that he would have gotten this award.
Yeah.
But they weren't going to give it to him. And I don't know if you guys saw the way he was looking the entire awards. He looked, after seeing O'Connell win Coach of the Year and then him lose Comeback Player of the Year, his agent must have texted him like, "You're screwed. Like, you're so screwed. Like, you have nothing.
Yeah.
You have nothing we can look to. They're just going to throw the playoff games at us and say, O'Connell's Coach of the Year. You're not getting a dime." Like,
did you see those past 2 games, Bud? His agent probably buddied him.
You say Bud?
Yeah, his agent probably buddied him.
He probably buddied him, yeah.
I guess we'll see what Emily and the rest of the Minnesota crew do.
Oh, yeah. That's
name dropping over here.
Well, as far as Joe Burrow, the biggest thing for him right now, because this year he balled out, like he had receiving yards and touchdowns and was killing it, even though he was losing games because, like Ty said, the defense. The biggest thing that people are wondering is about the wide receiver situation for the Bengals. As you put, Johnathan, Tyler Boyd, free agent last season, he left. T. Higgins, we've been talking about, most likely going to leave this season. And then he'll have Jamar Chase and some young guys like Charlie Jones, go Hawkeye. Andrew,
He left us. Don't.
Yeah, he went to Purdue.
That's right. He went to Purdue.
People don't know him because he played for Iowa. They know him.
Yeah. Andrew, I'm not going to know how to say that. Izivas? How do you say that?
I think it's Isovius. I don't know. He played the Princeton, I think.
And then Jermaine Burton. So that's what they're left with the wide receiver crew. I don't know if he'll be able to put up the same numbers next year, but what I think the Bengals should focus on is their defense, obviously. Maybe getting, you said not a single soul was breathing time. Maybe that, DeMar Hamlin is a free agent this season. He is breathing. They checked multiple times. So maybe they should sign him, get him in the defense, show everyone how to breathe properly, win Comeback Player of the Year award. Anyway.
Play the look on Tim's face. He's trying so hard to be serious.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, for the sake of time, we'll just go to the next one. Defensive Rookie of the Year, Jared Verse. If you don't know him, obviously,
you should.
Jane Daniels, not a big name, but him and his buddy from Florida State, Braden Fisk, and him balled out this year on the edge, making up for Aaron Donald retiring with the Rams, and they were just a tag team duo. Actually, Braden and Jared Verse were up for this award, so it was cool to see both of their highlights being played when they were about to announce the award. But Jared Verse, clearly the favorite in this one. What do you guys think about this? Definitely well-deserved in my eyes.
He had a huge fumble recovery against my Vikings, and that's all I'll say.
He did, yeah, and he killed you guys. Him and Braden played really well.
I just can't believe that Cooper DeJean didn't get it. What's up with that?
Oh,
I thought about that too. Cooper was hurt at the beginning of the season.
That's true.
That's my only loss.
I was just joking to kind of rile you up since you're an Iowa guy.
Oh, I
wasn't being serious.
He's realistic. He's an Iowa.
No, I'm just playing. No,
I'm a lawyer.
We understand the situation. The facts are in hand. Well, that one seemed like a well-deserved award. Excited to see what the Rams got going for next year with that defense. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Matthew Stafford. He's getting a little old. I know there's been talk of Cooper Kupp potentially on his way out or getting traded and stuff. So
I keep seeing – not to interject, but I keep seeing Raiders fans on Twitter, man. They are like, I want Matthew Stafford. I want Matthew Stafford. Like, they're like going crazy wanting to trade for him. I don't know, man. It'll be interesting. I don't really think the Rams have said that he's really available. I know they have with Cooper Kupp, but I think that'll be kind of interesting to see if he gets traded somewhere. I don't know.
Maybe.
Could happen.
We'll have to see. But I think the defense, as far as that, I mean, we've talked about it before. I think actually it was when the Vikings-Rams game happened. Don Shula's grandson seems like doing a pretty good job at defensive coordinator there. And with these young guys, they got a pretty good core over there. It'll be cool to see how they develop those two together. Good tandem. But, yeah, I agree. The offense, there's a lot of questions there. So, I don't know. But one guy that is also going to be having a lot of questions with his team in the offseason, who really showed how good of a coach he is Kevin O'Connell, who won Coach of the Year for the Minnesota Vikings this year with a great season with a quarterback that great. I don't know. We'll have to find out if they think so. There's a lot of questions that Kevin O'Connell is probably going to be talking with the front office about, with the team about, with whoever the quarterback is for next year. But the Vikings in general had a great season overall. Obviously, Kevin O'Connell, like I mentioned, they had Brian. Why am I blanking on his name? The defensive coordinator.
Brian Flores.
Brian
Yep.
Flores did great as the defensive coordinator. And they just overall were a team not to be messed with this year all the way until the end, but that's a different story. But this offseason, there are a lot of questions. Obviously, the first one is, and Ty, he's already stated for the Vikings, do you go Darnold extension? Do you go, is it McCarthy time?
Dude, we are talking about windows here. We're talking about windows with Jane Daniels. We can do the same thing with McCarthy. And you got to keep in mind, he doesn't have to throw 30 touchdowns.
No.
He's on this rookie deal. If he could just be a game manager and be solid at it, and then build around him, and then 3 or 4 years from now, if he's really good, we want to extend him. Then we'll be like, okay, you need passing the ball more. But these, especially next year when he's healthy, and hopefully he stays healthy because he never got hit at Michigan, and that's why I said we should not draft him. Then sure as shit, he gets hurt in the preseason. You build around him. We have so much money right now. You build around him, and we use this window to our advantage.
So I got a question for you. What are you doing at running back then? Aaron Jones is a free agent. You guys have to have a good running game. Are you bringing Aaron Jones back, another one-year deal? You looking at free agency, the draft? Is it Caleb Johnson time? Iowa to Minnesota? What are we doing?
Dude, if they draft Caleb Johnson, that'd be granted.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have the offense for Caleb Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, I'd still be pumped if we draft him because I think we'd fit him in somehow. Or Genty. I just don't know if Genty will be available.
He won't be there.
No, he won't.
But do you guys only have 3 picks? Am I reading this right?
Yeah, they only found 3 picks.
They traded a bunch last year to get up and get McCarthy. They moved 1 spot to get him, and they moved to get Dallas Turner. They gave up a lot of picks, but I didn't realize they only have 3.
Round 1 and 2 round 5s. If for everyone that's
we're not gonna. I know for a fact we're not gonna sign Najee Harris.
No, well, he's gonna get an extension from the Steelers. Yeah, they're gonna extend him. For sure.
I think
I kind of like him to the Raiders.
He's gonna get extended to the Steelers. Come on, what are we talking about?
All
right. He's gonna get extended. That's a whole different discussion.
Okay.
We'll
talk about that next week.
Or we'll draft the running back, or we're gonna try to sign Ty Johnson.
Maybe.
For the value that he brings, I think he can do the same thing that Aaron Jones did this year, but maybe better.
Yeah.
Ty Johnson?
Ty Johnson, yeah. He's free agent.
Okay.
Well, as far as free agents this offseason, we already mentioned Sam Darnold a ton. Byron Murphy, cornerback. Cameron Bynum, Cam Robinson.
Byron Murphy, sorry to interject again. I think Byron Murphy's the best corner available in free agency. I think everyone's stuck on DJ Reed. I don't think DJ Reed's the best corner.
Hopefully
I think it's Byron
Murphy. A lot of people are stuck on DJ Reed. Almost
I don't think he's the best. Yeah. I think it's Byron Murphy.
Certain television networks for sure.
Almost by way too much.
ESPN. Sorry.
Some people don't know how to evaluate it, but I won't talk about that right now. Anyway.
Subsidiary of Disney.
Yeah. We'll talk about it next week. But yeah, Harrison Smith, like you said, Byron Murphy's a huge one. Stephon Gilmore, Aaron Jones, we talked running back. Daniel Jones, but obviously they just picked him up, so I think they were I don't know what they were doing with that. Shaquille Griffin, there's a lot of pieces, but they do have the 7th most cap space with $58 million. So they have a lot to work with. They don't have a lot of draft picks, so it's going to be all free agency for them. I do think, and we talked about it before this pod, I actually think I agree with you guys, or Ty specifically. I think it might make less sense to extend Darnold when you have, these many free agents and you don't have that many draft picks.
I agree.
Well, it's funny because where did Kevin O'Connell come from?
What? What do you mean?
Before he was coaching the Vikings, where did he come from?
He came. Oh, I see what you're getting at.
Yes. Who was doing this month?
Yeah.
The Rams.
Yeah.
Giving away all their draft picks, just building in free agency, and they won the Super Bowl.
So they're following the model of course. Yeah.
Well, I think I agree with you guys, but I think you just bring Daniel Jones back. He's been there for half a season. Let him be the backup. Roll with McCarthy. It's cheap because, like you guys said, you don't have the picks to really do a lot in the draft.
Yeah.
You're going to have to spend on bringing your guys back, plus adding free agents. If you go re-sign Sam Darnold, that's a huge chunk of your cap. I mean, I don't know what that cap would be the first year. Maybe under 15, you think? You can get under 15 million?
Yeah.
In that first year cap hit? I don't know.
I think it'd be tough.
Depending on how big his signing bonus is, but that's a big chunk. So I think re-sign Daniel Jones and keep it moving.
Yeah, I think so. I think why wait on McCarthy? You know, like I think
you drafted him, you moved up to get him. Let's play him.
Yeah, we did.
But yeah, and like I said, who knows if O'Connell and McCarthy can, you know, bring you guys to the promised land to the Super Bowl next year, which is a great segue to you know, the actual Super Bowl that just happened. You know, not the fake one I just made up 2 seconds ago. Anyway.
The Vikings were in it. That's why.
Yeah, I know. Hey,
yeah.
I mean,
if we were talking about the 2025-2026 NFL Head Coach of the Year, Ben Johnson and the Chicago Bears.
No, we're not getting derailed.
That's not fake because we know that's going to happen. But
all right. Anyway, Super Bowl Sunday.
Tips took NyQuil.
Kansas City Chiefs, Philadelphia Eagles. The chance for the three-peat or the chance to play spoiler. And fly, Eagles, fly. Because the Philadelphia Eagles, it doesn't matter if you grease the poles. They're just going to rip them out of the freaking ground, and they're going to take them out down the street. And that's exactly what it felt like with what they did to the Kansas City Chiefs. Because this game was over probably halfway through the first quarter, it felt like. I mean, yes, it was 40-22. But those 22 points were basically like the Eagles just saying, "Oh, that's cute. Like, go ahead. Like, throw the ball."
That pass to Xavier Worthy at the end, that was the biggest, like, fuck you, I'm so pissed off pass.
Oh, yeah.
I've ever seen in my life. Because, it was – because I believe they got the 2-point after that because it was 40-14.
Yeah.
So – and it's funny because my wife and I just got back from Orlando this past weekend, so – she was like, we need to go home for the Super Bowl. And I'm like, I'm just not feeling it. Like, I really don't care.
She's like, I kind of like Orlando.
What's that?
I'm kind of liking Orlando. Let's stay here. We need to go home.
But it was just pretty ass kicking. It was wonderful.
Yeah. I'm sure. Yeah.
And I'll get in
23 yards in the first half for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
First down.
They didn't make it past the 50, like the other half of the end zone in the first half. Yeah. That's what was said. And no blitzing the entire game.
I was going to say, one of you put it on here. I think the most impressive thing about this was the pressure rate they had without blitzing.
Yeah. And I'm gonna talk about that.
Oh, you'll get some pick. But as far as the difference between, you know, speaking of the defense, as far as the difference between the 2023 Eagles when they played the Chiefs a few years ago and this one, it's insane what Howie Roseman was able to pull off with just completely changing the defense. And, you know, with guys like Kelsey and, you know, other guys on the defense that just were changed up on the team overall. Like, you pretty much had, like, all of that Georgia team from a few years ago just on your defense. And then you had a ton of great pieces with Cooper DeJean, which I know Ty will get to, and Quinyon Mitchell in the secondary. Like, and then obviously, once again, for Joe Shane, Saquon was on this team, and it was just an unstoppable force. And honestly, you know, there were talk of, you know, Shane Steichen when he left and everything. Oh, like, and the other coordinator, like, oh, this team's not going to be the same. But now you got Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore, who just made the team even better. And it was awesome. I mean, you know, we've been talking about screw the Chiefs all year, I think, and it was probably the most satisfying game I've watched as a non-fan of a team of football, to see them just eviscerate the Chiefs the way that they did was so satisfying.
This had a lot of because it was an ass kicking. I don't know if you guys remember when it would have been the 2013 season. The Seahawks beat the shit out of the Broncos in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
It was never close. And it just like, it, like the Eagles were moving at warp speed and the Chiefs were just like, we cannot do a single thing. It was like Tony just said, it was so satisfying to watch.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And, you know, Go ahead, Todd, Jonathan.
I was just going to say, too, you talked about Kellen Moore, too, and what he brought to that offense, but now he's gone, right? Like, that's a big loss. And I know we're going to get into kind of free agents in a second that are going to potentially leave, but, he's the Saints head coach now, right? They finalized the deal in New Orleans, so he's going to stay down there. He didn't even need to get back on the plane to go back to Philly. He can just stay down there, but yeah, I mean, that's a pretty damn big loss.
And
So.
one big thing, and we will get to the overperformer, underperformer, but one player I wanted to put underperformer, but I didn't. I did an overperformer that I think needs to be called out and probably needs to retire too, the way that he played, or just the Chiefs need to reevaluate. Travis Kelce was horrible in this game.
Yeah,
you should have put Taylor Swift out there to catch a ball. She might have actually caught a few. My God.
I know I've been seeing some clips on Twitter the last few days, and there was just like very little effort, it seemed like.
Did you see the Mahomes scramble one where he didn't even?
And he's standing there. He's just standing there. I'm like, what are we doing, dude? Get open.
You're in the Super Bowl. You're going for a three-peat here.
Yeah, you not care? I don't know, man.
Who knows?
It's hard to understand what's going on and why that's happening. That's just not who we know him to be. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. Well.
Interesting.
Taylor probably had as many appearances on the screen that Travis had as many catches.
Did you guys see at the begining when they put her on the screen and everyone's booing her?
Yeah.
And she says, what is going on?
Philly fans. I felt it was the Philly fans.
Oh, it was.
But one thing that I did want to call out, and I actually had a pun for it, was because, we've talked about the refs and stuff, was, in honor of the Kendrick Lamar halftime show, the refs dished out some poetic justice during this game, I felt. In the beginning, there was the call on A.J. Brown after the big pass from Jalen Hurts for the face mask on Trent McDuffie. Everyone was like, oh, here we go again. But then I felt like it became a fair game. And then there was also a call that I was like, oh, boy, that didn't really look like it. But I don't know if you guys saw, there was an unnecessary roughness where a guy went up on the Eagles, and then a Chiefs guy kind of came up, kind of clipped him a little bit, but he didn't go for like a head. And they called a flag on that. I was like, oh, boy.
Are you talking about in the first quarter, I think?
I think it was
Trent McDuffie. It was a terrible call. Terrible call.
It was a bad call. So it was funny to see what happens when the Chiefs have a game that's fairly called.
And a big thing about this, like, they stopped Saquon.
Yeah, they did.
And that was like, it was very obvious that was the game plan. And they did it. They did a great job. Like, he had, I think at one point, he was probably averaging 2 yards a carry. He may have finished under 3. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they stopped him, but the thing we've been talking about the whole time is Jalen Hurts going to come out here and be forced to, I think you're going to say this, Todd, but is he going to be forced to come out and, do something and throw the ball around and make some plays? And I don't think he made a bad decision the entire game. Like,
no, absolutely not. We on this podcast, we had especially me. I'm the one that bringing it up. Our last one we did it before conference championship weekend. He had the previous 7 games. He had 1 200-yard passing game, and then sure as shit, the conference championship and the Super Bowl, he goes for 246 passing yards against Commanders, and then 221 yards against the Chiefs.
Yep.
So he proved us, especially myself, wrong that hey, he could show up and. Hey, he's a Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah. And round of applause for Jalen Hurts.
Yep. One thing that I still find impressive, even though the game just was a clobber knocker, and it has to do with the rushing yards on Saquon.
Clobber knocker.
Clobber knocker.
I've never heard that one.
Absolute clobber knocker.
I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, write that down.
No.
This week's episode of Tony Terminology.
Yeah, exactly.
Clobber knocker.
Steve Spagnuolo.
We got a clobber knocker of an episode for you next week.
Steve Spagnuolo. Yeah, you put that as the title. Steve Spagnuolo still has not had a 100-yard rusher on his defense in the playoffs. That I did find out about, and I was wondering maybe Saquon would be the one to break that, but no, they still held him. And you're right, it was all on Jalen, and I think Jalen knew that. I think he knew going in, and he had great plays. I mean, that one bomb to Devontae Smith, that was just a dime. Like I was like, holy crap! Like, where has this been? But I think he just knew, like, I don't need to do this every game. Like,
Exactly.
and they knew, and I think everybody was just thinking like, oh, maybe he will, maybe he won't. But in his head, it's just like, I'll use it when I need to. And this is now the second Super Bowl, in his second Super Bowl, he's played better than Patrick Mahomes, who we are goating, or some people do. I'm not goating him at
And
all.
I think like another thing, like we weren't dogging him. We just said like eventually he's gonna have to show up and do something.
He's gonna have to, yeah.
And he fucking did.
He did it, and he killed them. It was great because he had some good rushes too. Like, it wasn't just his passing.
Dude, he led the Eagles in rushing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, Saquon. And Jalen's like, what about me? I got big thighs too. You ever see the squatting of them? Like, you know, I can squat more than you. See, look, they both can. So I think that it was a good effort by Jalen. And, you know, the game was great. I think it was fairly called. And if you actually have watched the season, for anyone like, oh, you know, that was ridiculous on the Chiefs. Well, this is how most of the season was for the Chiefs. They were not playing well. Sometime during the season, the Panthers almost beat them. So it wasn't that surprising to see a really good Eagles team clobber knock them. So, you know, I had to use it a second time.
I've been trying to sit here and think about how I'm going to use it again too. Don't worry.
Anyway, as far as both of these teams' off seasons, it does look like they're kind of in the same realm as far as what they have to work with. As far as the Eagles, you know, Howie Roseman's been killing it, and he still has some availability this offseason. $18.1 million, second most. Got plenty of draft picks, round 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2 5s and a 4th. Some free agents, Mekhi Becton, Brandon Graham, who might retire, Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, Zach Bond, who had an interception and was just great this year, and Oren Burke. So they do have some guys they may have to, you know, give some extensions to, but I feel like they can make it work. If anyone can, Howie can. And then, you got the Chiefs, cap space, 22nd most, same amount of picks, like round 1, 2, 2 3s, 5 and a 7. And then I think the free agents, the most notable ones are like Trey Smith. A lot of the wide receivers, DeAndre, Brown, Watson. You got Kareem Hunt, Justin Reed, Nick Bolton, which we'll talk more about next week, and then Tershawn Wharton. So what do you guys think about their off seasons? Like, what do they need to focus on, work on, or like are they set? Go for 2 for the Eagles?
As far as the Eagles, man, I think they just got to keep building through the draft and getting guys, because I'm afraid, you know, there's some losses here. Like, I don't know if they're going to get all these guys back. I think Josh Sweat, just with his age, some teams might consider him one of the better edge rushers in free agency. I think it's a pretty good draft class too, but there might be a team that gives him a bag in free agency, and especially with how well he played in the Super Bowl, right? So he might be hard to keep. And then, you know, I look at Zach Bond and what he did this year. You know, they got him for so cheap, and then he exploded and became one of the best linebackers in the NFL. So just in 1 year. So that's going to be hard to probably maintain and keep him. And then the other big one is Mekhi Becton, right? Same kind of deal. Like, he kind of struggled throughout his career, staying healthy. And then, you know, the Jets gave up on him. He comes here on a 1 year deal, really cheap. Now he's one of the better guards in the league after, you know, just one season with the Eagles. So that's kind of tough. So I think, you know, they need to find ways to continue doing what they're doing. You know, last year they signed 2 guys like that on 1 year deals, and they get a lot out of them, and no one else saw anything in them. And that's what Howie Roseman does. So he needs to do that again. Like, he needs to have an offseason where he's going out and getting guys that no one is really seeing much in. He gets them cheap, and then they get a lot of production out of them.
Who would you guys on the Chiefs list we got, other than Brandon Graham, because I agree, I think he's going to retire. Who would you guys prioritize?
You talking Chiefs or Eagles?
Chiefs. Oh, Eagles first?
Yeah.
Eagles or Chiefs? Eagles?
Yes.
Eagles.
Oh,
I thought you said Chiefs. My bad.
I don't know, man. I think Zach Bond, I like him a lot.
I was just about to say.
But I really like, you know, I think O-line, D-line is so important. And, like, Milton Williams, Mekhi Becton, Josh Sweat, all those guys, man, like, I don't know who you prioritize. I mean, you got to look at kind of the draft, and then if there's any free agents you like that you think can be cheaper and just as productive. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be tough. But I like all those guys a lot. So
Yeah, I
I don't
mean,
know.
I think if you're gonna pick two of them, I would probably go Zach Bond or Mekhi Becton. Um, you know, and if maybe you go throw in a third, maybe Josh Sweat. Probably try to keep him. That pass rush was incredible. If you could just have guys from all over the place, and you just showed that with a good pass rush, you could just basically dominate anyone, without even having to blitz, which once again, that's just insane that, Vic did that, and Johnathan will get into that. But yeah. And then as far as the Chiefs, like if we're going to pick one of them, I'd probably focus on, we'll talk more about him, and so maybe I'm a little biased when we talk about him next week. Nick Bolton, so another linebacker, one of the sneaky guys that's been really productive for the team. But yeah, clearly
Yeah,
this was a big point for both these teams.
I like the Nick Bolton too for the Chiefs. Trey Smith's out of the picture. I think there's no way he's going to go unless he just wants to be back and is willing to sign a deal that is not going to be where his market is in free agency. It's going to be substantially less. But if he wants to do that, he can come back. I think an underrated guy that is honestly a really solid player, kind of goes under the radar because he kind of gets shadowed by Chris Jones, and that's Tershawn Wharton. I think he's a really underrated D lineman, and I don't think he'd be super expensive, and I think it'd be big for them to bring him back. What about you, Ty? Anybody stick out to you?
From the Chiefs or Eagles?
I definitely for the Eagles, I agree. Either Zach Bond or definitely Josh Sweat. Like I'll get in the Eagles secondary, so maybe I think Tony has a great point. Maybe go for the D line because secondary has been kind of thrown a little bit.
Trenches.
As for the Chiefs, like I don't want to call it. I will not say DeAndre Hopkins is washed, but I don't think they used him like everybody expected them to use him.
He couldn't catch the ball, so
if
they did use him, he couldn't catch the ball.
And like he's getting older. I think I want to say he's 32, maybe.
I think you're right.
So they definitely need another receiver, because Patrick Mahomes is still Patrick Mahomes. I think they're gonna have to draft a tight end.
Oh yeah, I think that's pretty evident at this point.
Yes.
I mean they got Noah Gray, and then there's gonna be some people that might listen to this podcast from high school that might remember when I got stiff armed by Peyton Hendershot. He's a 6'5" tight end. He played receiver back in the day. And there's this terrible photo of him stiff arming me, and I shouldn't even be.
I think you mentioned.
I think I told you guys about this, but he's a tight end on their team too, on the Chiefs, and he's honestly a pretty sneaky player too. So he could potentially develop into something.
So basically, because he's stiff arm Johnathan, everybody, it means the guy's really good. Because if
he's very good.
Johnathan,
hey man, he was 6'5" and I was like 5'9". Like, come on.
You know, I love talking about odds. If they backload it, what are the odds of the Chiefs getting T. Higgins?
No, it's not.
No
I
shot.
think he actually would not want to, potentially, too.
I'd be very surprised. I think T. Higgins, man, I think like the Patriots have so much money and they don't have any receivers.
Well, obviously he's going to go from max to your cash flows. So he's going to go from salary
cap. Oh, yeah. No, he would. He's going to want as much cash as possible. He's going to get a huge deal. I mean,
he probably will.
What's Jefferson, 35 a year?
Yeah.
Is AJ Brown at 30? I think T. Higgins will probably be close to that. And I don't know Ayuk got 30, so yeah, he should be. I don't think Ayuk's worth 30.
Not right now.
I think T will probably get 30 on the open market at least, just because he's young and he's the best free agent out there. He's the best one. Someone's going to overpay him. And if someone has money like the Patriots, then
and of course Patriots #1 salary cap.
Yep.
They need it bad, so I think that makes some sense.
Could happen.
But who knows?
Well, those two teams, I was going to say had a good battle, but they didn't because the Chiefs didn't come to play. But there were a few specific, players, and we even have a coach that really just overperformed this week, because I noticed that we all had overperformers this week. We were on a positive note this week, which is good, which is really good. So I'll start off with my pick, then we'll go to Johnathan, and we'll end off with Ty. I can tell that we've been going a little bit longer than we usually do today, so I'll be a little quick with mine. But my overperformer of the week was, I was already, crabbing on the Chiefs a little bit, but there was one guy that I really do feel like stood out amongst the Kansas City Chiefs, and that was Xavier Worthy. Obviously, the most notable play of the game that really stands out was the huge bomb that Patrick Mahomes had to him right at the end of the game to make the
Eagles backups were in.
Yeah, obviously Eagles backups were in, so I mean, I guess no big deal. But great play, and he had plays during the game before that. Like he was making some good runs, and honestly, it almost felt like he was the one guy that was just like actually trying, like in my opinion, and like it really showed that this guy could be a really good star in the future. And so once again, Buffalo Bills, why did you give him this pick? My gosh. But 8 receptions, 157 yards, and that's probably a little inflated from that play at the end, and 2 touchdowns. It was hilarious because at one point that last touchdown happened, and somebody at the bar that I was watching at was like, "Is there a chance?" I'm like, "I really don't think so." But like, it was cool to see like him really balling out. And I think what is the really cool part after seeing the free agents for the Chiefs is we mentioned D-Hop is a free agent. Hollywood Brown's a free agent. Watson's a free agent. So it kind of
Juju. I think Juju's a free agent.
Juju might be a free agent too. And it really does look like Xavier might be leaning towards becoming the wide receiver.
Hey, don't forget about Rashee Rice.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Rice too. That's true. But
those two together would be pretty nice.
Those two together could be really good. And
you get a tight end.
Yeah, if you a tight end that's not
which is something I don't think anyone ever thought they'd be saying, but
when your girlfriend could probably come down on the field and probably catch more balls than you, then yeah, probably.
If they need a tight end, we're like when in doubt, like
tight end.
What did I just say? Draft Luke Lachey. They could get him easily in the 5th round.
There you go. Well, Xavier proved that he can be big in those moments, and obviously on the biggest stage he did. And yeah, I just wanted to shout him out. Like, I know I gave shit to the Chiefs, but I do think that he'll be a pretty good player in this league. So
yeah,
Johnathan,
it's a good pick.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be pretty quick with mine. I know Ty has a lot to say, and we're already. This is the longest pod we've done so far.
Absolutely.
But a coach has never won Super Bowl MVP before, but I think this guy deserved it. And that's Vic Fangio. We've already talked about him a lot. The Eagles defensive coordinator, but we've been talking about this pressure rate, 38.1% pressure rate on 41 dropbacks for Mahomes, and they never blitzed. So, I mean, they're just going 4-on-5, sometimes even, tight ends chipping or running back, whatever. But that's pretty damn good. They disrupted them all game. Like I said earlier, the Eagles had 23 yards and 1 first down in the first half. So I feel like it's dominated them. I mean, everyone knows that who watched the game, right? And it's a pretty easy pick. But, what Vic Fangio has done over the course of his career, and, he was with the Chicago Bears for a while, and I know – and that defense that we had, I think in 2018 was outstanding. And I think he's had some other pretty good defenses other places. I know when he was with the Broncos as a head coach, didn't really work out as, people kind of wanted. But I think
and in Miami, they didn't like him either.
Right, which is crazy. But, like, when you think about it, him as a defensive coordinator, I think he has to be in contention for maybe not the best defensive coordinator of all time, but, like, he's a top, and I'm not just talking about this game. Like, it's more than just this game. Like, he is definitely like a top defensive coordinator, like in the league now and like in history. Like he is absolutely, and like he's one of the best to ever do it. Like just playing.
Him and Buddy Ryan deserve Super Bowl MVPs for their Super Bowls. The Bears in '85, Buddy Ryan's 46, and Vic Fangio for that Super Bowl win. Both deserve the Super Bowl MVPs. If they could get them to coaches, because that was insane of a performance.
And then, and then not to mention Cooper DeJean's pick too. So, that was a big play, and I know that'll kind of segue us into Ty's pick here.
Wonderful transition.
Picked by Ty.
The exciting white and the big stage in the Super Bowl. Cooper obviously had that pick 6 that was huge. And like it was a great play. Like, it wasn't like just Patrick Mahomes threw the ball straight to him. Like, he had to make that play. I believe they were in zone when that play happened.
Mhm.
And Patrick just did not see him. And took it to the house, dodged a couple tackles. There's an iconic picture of him crossing the end zone, and Patrick Mahomes is right behind him. That was oddly exciting. So, interception return for a touchdown. First of his career, and for it to be a touchdown in the Super Bowl on his birthday. Like, you can't make this shit up. 3 solo tackles, 1 pass defended. He also had some punt return yards too. He was definitely my overperformer, not just for this game, but for his early career in the NFL so far. Only 1 Power 5 offer out of high school, the University of Iowa, his home state. He was huge there. First team All Big Ten the 2 years that he started, and unanimous All-American his last year, despite missing 4 games. He was Big Ten defensive back his final year. He was the 4th corner drafted this past draft, which is the most shocking thing to me. Like, he did get hurt, and I get like injuries aren't a big deal, but like to be 4th and the 2nd round, like he was a lock for the 1st round had he not gotten hurt. But ironically, he's the 4th drafted. The number 1 corner drafted was Quinyon Mitchell, which obviously that was a great pick by the Eagles too. Like, you can't blame him for doing that. But to have those 2 now on the same team on the field at all times together, that the Eagles secondary is going to be great for many years to come. And my number 1 thing I want to say about Coop is that highest ranked cornerback per PFF this year, 3 points above Pat Surtain. So if he keeps playing like this, give the man early extension. Holy hell. Don't have to emphasize that enough. Going back to the Eagles secondary, Coop, rookie, 3 years left on his deal. Quinyon Mitchell, rookie, 3 years left on his deal. Darius Slay, he's the only one I'm concerned about. 12 seasons. I believe he's 34 years old. He only has 1 year left. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, 6 seasons in the NFL, 2 years left on his deal. Reed Blankenship, 3 seasons in the NFL, 1 year left on his deal. Assume these guys stay healthy, like, there's no reason the Eagles won't have another great defense next year.
Right. I think right now they're the favorite for next year. And I mean, they just won the Super Bowl, but like sometimes, you see teams win the Super Bowl and you're like, all right, well, this roster is not going to be the same. Like, they're going to have to tear this thing down. But, we talked about some of the pieces they're going to potentially lose, but I think overall, like, they might be able to bring some of those guys back, have a successful draft, and be back here next year. So it's looking pretty good for them.
Yeah. I said it before the pod, and I'll say it again. This, for any Hawkeye fans or college football fans, this pick 6 in the Super Bowl was poetic justice and just redemption for the Iowa-Minnesota game. I think it was it 2 years ago, where Cooper DeJean, might have been a year ago or 2 years ago. Cooper DeJean.
It was 2023.
2023. That's funny. That's the same year that the Eagles lost to the Chiefs. So, wow, the stars aligned. But Iowa, Minnesota, Cooper DeJean took a punt return back, and the refs called it back. But in this Super Bowl, the refs
wasn't that just like a clobber knocker of a call too?
It was a clobber knocker of a call. They called it back because they said he was waving the ball up, but he was just putting his arms like this, not waving it off for a fair catch. And, this was great, this pick 6, because there were no flags. There were nothing.
I hope PJ Fleck was smiling when he was watching this game.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It was a great way for everything to come full circle, and especially on his birthday, him and Saquon. But, yeah, no, once again, it was a great Super Bowl. It was a very satisfying Super Bowl, and it was awesome to see a fellow Hawkeye, make a big play in the game. Coop, go Coop. But do you guys have anything before we head out? I know this has been a long podcast.
Yeah, I don't think so. If anyone listened to the whole thing, thanks for listening. Tune in next week.
Yeah.
No more football for a long time, but
No.
Ironically, us saying that, this actually, for us, what we want to do with our careers, this is actually the most exciting time of the year.
Oh, I love this time of year.
Absolutely.
So we'll have a lot of fun to talk about.
We've got the draft coming up. I think Tony's actually going to come down to Indianapolis. I'm in Indiana. He's going to come down, and
For the combine,
Ty, I don't think is going to be able to make it, but I think Tony's going to come. Maybe we can do an episode during the combine, maybe even. Maybe we can zoom in Ty. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not going to promise any more of that stuff, like, because we didn't get it done.
Yeah,
in New Orleans, but,
I know that. Yeah, I know that we promised in the past we would do an episode in New Orleans. We
Yeah.
didn't end up doing that, but we will end up talking about that next week. You know, the players that we negotiated against and the free agents for them. Johnathan, you were talking about combine and all that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we're gonna be there for that, so maybe we'll have an episode kind of talking about the combine a little bit, and then I'd like to do a mock draft with you guys on the PFF simulator. So
Yeah, want to do a mock draft. We'll see what else comes the offseason. Plenty to talk about. We will definitely get to it. But if you came all the way to the end of this episode, thank you for listening. If you want to follow us or listen to maybe some of our reels or clips or the entire episode again, our Instagram is at the Pigskin Payroll. X is at Pigskin Payroll. Our YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, which we really need to start paying for so we can have it, is at the Pigskin Payroll Podcast and www.pigskinpayroll.com. Thank you guys for listening, and fly, Eagles, fly.
Exciting whites, baby.
Exciting whites and fly, Eagles, fly. See you guys later. We'll see you next week.